All right, welcome back. This is part two of week 10 lecture, Quarantine Fear Safety. So we were at let me skip all the way through. We're going to talk about acid rain. So, anyway, acid rain. So, what is acid rain? Well, it starts off with sulfur dioxide, which we talked about before. It is an airborne pollutant in the atmosphere. And when it mixes with nitrogen in the atmosphere, it forms drops of sulfuric acid which unfortunately bonds with water in the clouds. And so that water in the clouds is now acidic or acid rain. Okay. Almost all man made emissions of sulfur dioxide come from burning coal, as you can see in the smokestacks. Um, Acid rain, given enough time, can actually dissolve rocks. And as we'll talk about in this lecture, it can change soil and water chemistry and have disastrous results. By the way, acidic rain does happen naturally. Volcanoes throw off an enormous amount of sulfur. And so downwind of volcanoes, you'll often find natural acidic rain as well. But mainly we're going to focus on anthropogenic acidic rain. And this is actually what it can do, excuse me, over time. So all liquids on a scale of 0 to 14 fall somewhere on this list. And something that is neutral like water is neither acidic nor a base. Things that are a base are like baking soda or drain cleaner. Things that are acidic are like coffee, acid rain, lemon juice, or battery acid. So this is kind of the range that's good for most life. But if rain is acidic over time, take the example of this statue of a lion here in Leeds, England. Over hundreds of years, it basically dissolves the rock. Um, Muriatic acid is a pool cleaner. How they actually scrub the insides of cement pools. So acid rain is why you look at older statues that kind of that look. If you've ever noticed any of the buildings in downtown Chicago, the really older ones, look like they kind of have coffee stains on them. That's actually the acid rain etching the outer stone. And when it gets into the ground, as here in North Carolina, it can have disastrous effects, which we're going to talk about. So this right here is from 2006. It's just a map showing the acid on the ground. So basically the rainfall that hit the ground, what was its acidic content. So remember that 7 is neutral. And so most everything tends to be slightly acidic. That's just the way that it goes that way. Um, but the vast majority of the country is actually at a pretty neutral pH. But you see right here, this concentration of very, very acidic rain, and that's due in large part to the factories here in Chicago and Detroit and Ohio, and the wind blows it this way, all to the East Coast. So, what happens when acid rain falls and hits the ground? When it hits the soil, well, it can be neutralized to an extent because what happens is certain chemicals make something that is acidic and make it neutral. So calcium will bond with acid and neutralize it out. So if there's a lot of calcium in the ground, and calcium is found in rocks like limestone or calcium carbonate, that can naturally kind of absorb the acid. A thicker soil has more material, so thicker, deeper soils, especially here in the Great Plains, can absorb a lot of acid. But if the soil can absorb the acid, what does happen is that it can leach chemicals out of the ground. Things that are acidic are like a solvent, they dissolve things. So it can actually dissolve certain chemicals out of the rocks and pull them out of the soil. And what happens to plants? Well, the picture you can see right here, this is a forest that has had problems with acid rainfall. All that acid rain accumulates in the soil and the groundwater, and the trees basically drink in this acidic water. And what happens is it pulls minerals from not only the soil, but the plant. You can see here that this pine tree on the left is actually almost in a sense bleaching the needles. It's pulling out chemicals and minerals that the tree needs to live. Okay. The lab that we were going to do was actually we were going to take some more bean sprouts and you were going to put them in a Ziploc bag with paper towels that were soaked in water, in vinegar, which is a base, and then a little bit of lemon juice, which is an acid. And you were going to see what the difference was. And here's an example I found from online, this was a seed that was in a more neutral water. This was a seed that was soaked in more acidic water. And you can see that in the same length of time, this one grew much faster. So acidic water interferes with cellular reproduction. And this chart just kind of shows you right here that water, pure water is 7. 7 is neutral. It's not either acidic or basic, right? And rain that is considered clean is slightly acidic at 5.6, right? But acid rain is 4.2. But look right here. Rainbow trout begin to die at 6, so some fish are very sensitive. Frog eggs, and by the time we get to 4.2 pH, almost all animal or fish life dies. So animals and plants are very sensitive to this. Okay, so what happens is in these areas where you have acid rain falling, all the chemicals that are leached from the trees and the soil end up in the groundwater and in the lakes. And when they accumulate in the lakes, the fish can't tolerate it and they die. So acid rains at about a pH of 4.2, and most fish die at a 5.2. So if you have these constant additions of acid rain over time, it builds up. And in the video that you're going to watch this week, it talks directly about how this has affected lakes in upstate New York. And this is actually a pretty short week. I kind of wanted to get you back into practice and focus on the written work. So now that you've done these 2 videos, feel free to go back and watch them. Take notes if you want. But you now have a Kahoot, which is quiz 7. So if you go into D2L in the modules, you look for quiz 7, you click it, it opens, it shows you the link and the passcode to Kahoot. Take the challenge, and then there you go. It has to be done by the start of the next class. As always, if you have any issues, let me know. Don't forget to watch the film about acid rain documentary, and then complete the film reflection, answering the questions. The questions follow right in order of the film. All right. Don't forget your water taste test discussion post, right? The first one by Sunday, and your response to someone else's post by next class. The letter to K, number 2. And again, there's not a lot this week, so I want you to focus on check for any other missing or late assignments. I'm going to be a little bit more lenient and forgiving on grading those if they're missing. I'm going to maybe not be such a stickler for the deductions, but you got to keep up on that. I can't keep on, giving these study halls in a sense. Last, always, 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 since we're not meeting in person, communicate with me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send me an email. I'm checking them all week. And then also watch your email for messages. And remember that next week, Thursday, at our scheduled class time, so either 2 p.m. or 6 p.m., I will be in a conference room on Canvas. So you'll get the invite. As it stands right now, it's not mandatory, but it couldn't hurt to check in and tell me how your week went if you had any issues. That would go a long way towards participation points. Hint, hint, hint. So other than that, just make sure you wash your hands, be safe, and I will see you all next week.